Okay. Hello. Hello, everyone. This is Reanimate This podcast where we take one live action movie and discuss how to turn it into an animation. I'm Jay, and here my co-host of this month, Ryan.
Hello.
So yes, we are going to talk about this one interesting movie from Australia called A Grand Mockery.
I thought a cinema job was like a walk in the park.
No, strange people.
We're alive.
Worthless. Worthless contribution to society.
I know
Love me!
What is A Grand Mockery about? A Grand Mockery centers around a young man named Josie, who is played by the movie's co-director, Sam Dixon. Josie works at the movie theater in the city of Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. He lives with his girlfriend Nellie, played by Kate Dillon, hangs out with his hipster friends, drinks wines, takes care of his dementia-ridden grandfather, and converses with corpses at the cemetery. Then his monotonous daily life starts eating him alive, with his body deteriorating with a large tumor growing on his face. But nobody notices his physical transformation. After a series of surreal moments, he retreats himself to Queensland's rainforest.
I remember hearing about A Grand Mockery I think on social media or on the internet, where I follow the American movie distributor by the name of Yellow Veil Pictures, because they put out some good movies and some cool restorations throughout this decade. And they got this very grainy looking oddball movie called A Grand Mockery, and I was very intrigued. And I was even more intrigued when I later learned that it was shot on Super 8 millimeter, which is quite a rarity for feature filmmaking. So I tried to look up where can I watch it on video on demand, but turns out by the time I learned more about this movie, I found out that they are doing a theatrical circuit in the United States, or at least for very briefly, and they released the movie in a local small theater in Brooklyn called Spectacle Theater. And the closest to what I was, the closest to date back then was the perhaps the last screening at the Spectacle Theater. So I booked the ticket on that day. I went there and watched the late night screening, and it was a quite interesting experience. So much so that I wanted to recommend to everybody else. So yes, Ryan, what do you think about this movie?
This movie was it was very Lynchian to me. Like I enjoy movies like this where it's just sort of a character or multiple characters sort of downward spiral. In this case, a movie theater employee, Josie, and it's such a liminal kind of film. Like something about both it being shot in 8 millimeter really attracted me. I remember like when you showed me the trailer for it, like I was immediately on board. Like I love like out there movies to begin with, let alone ones that are just shot like very like in a very like unorthodox style or unorthodox kind of like medium, like whether it be inspired 35 millimeter or even in this case Super 8 millimeter, which I mean it looks gorgeous. It still like has that grain and that grit to it, and combined with how sort of surreal and depraved and just downright unhinged it is. It's one of those films that like I I wouldn't I I can understand why you would want to show it to people.
I mean, we don't really watch movies that are like shot on Super 8 millimeter. I mean, there are a lot of movies that are shot on like Super 16, but not so much with the Super 8. I mean, there are probably a lot of reasons why. Perhaps the Super 8 is perhaps the most, how should I put it? Not a pro, not enough for like a professional filmmaking
It's
because
very
it's often associated with, home movies, like home videos.
yeah, it's very like low res, and I think I think the reason why in this case for like a grand mockery it works so well is because it lures you into this sort of groundedness of this sort of mundane sort of cycle, but on the same token that's where it gets you. That's where it sort of like deceives you into this like very unusual kind of trip. And like I recently made a movie using Super 8 millimeter, a short film using a bunch of like home movies, and I mean that's usually where you see 8 millimeter film for sure, but like it's a very unique kind of choice to make. I think it's when a film like this comes along where it's willing to take those kind of risks, you know, and it does. I think in this case, it does kind of pay off. I think with the usage of it, I think you kind of have to respect the filmmakers for doing such a bold choice with that.
Yeah, and I think they succeeded. I think I learned that they have won some, film festival prizes, including like a local ones and even like one abroad. Like, believe it or not, I found out that there's a South by Southwest in Australia, and they had a premiere there, and then later on they had a premiere in Stige International Film Festival, which is a genre movie film festival, and they won like a best director awards there. Last year was a quite an interesting year for Australian movies. I mean, not only A Grand Mockery, but there was this animated movie, an indie animated movie, Lesbian Space Princess, which also won an award at Stitch. And there was a movie called Dangerous Animals, Sean Burns' Dangerous Animals, and that made a buzz in the United States. I mean, we could probably talk more about the Australian cinema, but
Oh, for sure, yeah.
actually, I mean, even if I ended up feeling indifferent to this movie as whole, I it still holds my attention for a long time, all because of lo-fi grain. This Super 8 lo-fi grain. It really captured the alienating feel that the director were trying to aim for.
I think the grain helps. I think also some like the music cues as well. Like there were certain things about this film that really made me feel uncomfortable, rightfully so. And like not I mean the grain didn't as much. Like I like the grain. Like there are certain shot compositions like that really I thought were breathtaking, especially on Super 8, like especially during like sunsets or like lighting with the trees, especially that were like just beautiful. Um, but I think it's a very meticulous kind of film. I think it's made with such distinctive purpose behind like a lot of its shot compositions, and um, it does like hold your attention, and it just kind of like eases you in as it gets more and more and more like visceral.
And you mentioned Lynchian. I mean, the first time I watched it, I mentioned the movie Lost Highway in in my letterbox review, and I think I thought about Lost Highway during the climactic scene. Well, not exactly the most climactic scene, but there's a scene where Josie, now, you know, driving away from Brisbane in the middle of the night. I kept thinking about the iconic shot of, both the opening and the closing shot of the, headlight, you know, the headlight shot. Like you see the road.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I kept thinking about that, and now that I'm watching it for like a third time today, I realized that this is not much of a Lost Highway, but this is more of a David Lynch first feature film, Eraserhead. It's very much specifically a Brisbane Eraserhead.
Yeah, I could definitely see it being that. Like, there's certain things, like, especially when it goes to the day to day of Josie's, like, his time working at the movie theater and his time with his friend that was an AA. Like, it's that kind of cyclical nature that felt very. It reminded me a lot of Eraserhead, like, especially that section. Um, I mean, they're more down the road, especially. Particularly in that climactic scene. I don't want to give too much away, because I think it's. I mean, I've only seen it probably 2 days ago, and I rewatched a little bit more of it just for this podcast. But it's still like echoes in my head, like particularly with Josie's sort of his. How do I put this? His transformation, I guess, would be the way I would describe it, without like spoiling much in the way of it.
To be honest, even the distributor sort of spoils it. Like, oh, it's about the guy who got lonely and then he he went crazy and he drove out of the city and then retreated into the wilderness in Queensland, and that's how the movie ends. I mean, okay, we're still gonna spoil it. It doesn't matter. So
Yeah,
yes,
I know.
so yes. There's like one scene in the climax where this guy like singing about big brown eyes that hypnotize you. I was
Uh,
like, oh, that on the third watch, this is more of a the in heaven, the iconic in heaven scene in Eraserhead, or the Silencio scene in Mulholland Drive, like this the late Rebecca Del Rio singing, doing the Spanish cover of Roy Orbison's Crying. The very iconic scene.
Señoras y señores, el Club Silencio les presenta la Llorona de Los Ángeles, Rebecca del Río.
Yo estaba bien.
Oh yeah. I mean, my brain went to funny enough with that scene, the lady in the radiator.
Oh
Um,
yes. That's what I was talking about. The in heaven part.
oh, that's what. I'm sorry.
In heaven, everything is fine.
But it did remind me a lot of that. There's a few newer indie hits that have kind of like tried to replicate that, but I feel this is like the closest that really gets to it, like the kind of eeriness of it. Um, Especially with Josie's like being so devolved at this point of the movie. On top of like how like they ridicule him right after the song, like it's very unnerving, and I think it's a mixture of both him singing the song particularly, but also just his posture and the way the camera's like shot from him, like being condescending uh with like the other like uh I want to say it's the like just the buff guy next to him, like just like that imposingness of it. It just makes you uncomfortable. It's already uncomfortable enough at this point in the movie because of how far it's gone with Josie, but it just adds to it. It just adds even more to it.
Yes, and I, so I think there's besides the surrealism. I also on the third watch, I also realized that this is also more closer to like the '90s indie movies, particularly like ones made by Richard Linklater. And well, okay, Richard Linklater did like experiment with surrealism, especially in the medium of animation, like Waking Life. And when you watch Waking Life, it's very much like a very episodic. How should I put it? Like, there is no like specific kind of like a 5 act or 3 act structure. It's just one event is happening. Oh, the another event is happening. Like a random event plot, as some people would call it, or something like Kevin Smith's Clerks. And he did, Rachel Linklater and Kevin Smith did that to show the more quotidian elements of our life, and also to show that how monotonous the character Josie is. Even though there are a lot of interesting going on, like him hanging out with his like avant-garde artist friends, and him, I think it's his like grandfather who has an Alzheimer, and along with living with his girlfriend Nellie, and Nellie is a kindergarten teacher, I think,
Yeah, I got
who
that
plays
impression.
violin. And then there's a like he does this how should I put it, like a recurring part, like I think like every day he goes to the cemetery and talk with the dead people, and there's like a bit of a there's like a things start to get a bit more surreal, and then also become a lot more mystical. Like it get in the middle of the movie we get learn more about this I don't know, this random character. No, not random, but this off-screen character named Sal.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ambiguity around the character Sal. And upon the third watch, I kept thinking, like, is he the actual, like, demon that got exorcised out of this, whatever the pagan ritual that Josie was in? I don't know. The movie doesn't explain too much, and you know what? I prefer to keep it that way.
See, that was
Everyone has their
what
own random interpretation, or we could ask, the directors Sam Dixon and Evan C. Briggs, what is it all about?
Yeah, I was wondering that too about Sal because like it was always this thing, especially like the scene where Nellie's reading the letter that she gets from Sal about like, hey, go to the cemetery, find this box. And then initially I'm like, oh, it's just the guy. And then like Nellie asks the guy, hey, are you Sal? He's like, no. Like I'm just here. And the more especially when you get to like the end of the movie, like how it bookends itself with both these like entries and like the latter half of the voiceover, like is that Sal in the background? Is he pushing Josie to this point and like this like downward spiral? Like it it puts more questions than answers, and it's unfortunate what happens to Josie, but it's at the same token like there's so much more you pick up with, I think, every detail watching this movie. And like I'm even upon like trying to analyze more of these scenes earlier today, like it still is there still is so much ambiguity regarding
Yes.
style and
And
regarding
I also realized that after that Sal scene,
Mm.
Nellie and the whole subplot involving Nellie just stops. I mean, Nellie did come back, but only after like some sort of like Josie's own, like, I don't know, like, how should what's the better word for it? Like hallucination or fugu?
hallucination.
Fugue?
Fuge, yeah,
Yeah,
Fuge, yeah.
fuge. Yeah. Like while he's suffering, having this large tumor on his face.
Yeah. I get it that we're following mostly Josie on this, but like at least I will have I feel that adds to like the almost uncanny valley nature of this film. Like some things just don't end cleanly. That's just sometimes is life, unfortunately. You just are kind of left with this sort of okay, that's it, and then just move on. Like there's no uh real sort of closure with that storyline. Um even with the way this film, with Josie's journey as well. I wish I understand I could sort of figure out why maybe they stopped with Nelly, but like still, like it's sort of one of those I guess that is the way it is kind of moments.
Yeah, That's what I thought. Yeah. I and also I just remembered, like, did you know that Richard Linklater's very first feature film was actually a movie shot on 8 millimeter?
No, I didn't know that.
Like his first feature film it's you could okay, I think I didn't watch it fully, but I did it's more like I skimmed through it, and you could tell that a lot of things in that movie later gets, explored more or get more reused in his later movies. His Well, besides, I would say his indie movies, but not so much like his like big studio movies like School of Rock. But
Mhm.
okay, the title is Impossible to Learn Plo by Reading Books. So, according to Wikipedia, Richard Linklater began making short film upon moving to Austin, Texas in the late 1980s, where he also began running the Austin Film Society. The film shot on Super 8 film over the course of a year. And even though it never got a widespread release, but it's available on the internet along as a bonus feature on the DVD and Blu-ray release of Linklater film Slackers by the Criterion Collection.
Huh.
By the way, another very well-known movie that was shot on Super 8 millimeter, but as a way to creating very well, much like A Grand Mockery, it also create a very disturbing feel, and I'm pretty sure you heard of it. I heard of it, but however, I didn't really have a guts to watch it. Have you heard of this horror movie called Necromantic?
It sounds very familiar.
Yeah, it's a necrophilia movie. That's all I have to describe it. But I later learned that it was shot on Super 8, which is
Oh,
yeah,
yes. Okay. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page right now.
yep. So there's that. Is it? Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, you could say that. I mean, most like auteurs started out making movies with 8 millimeter. Like, Sam Raimi with, he made I think like a pilot movie for Evil Dead with Super 8. You know about that story?
Not really, no. I mostly know him from Dead, but I didn't know what he exactly did beforehand.
Hold on. So I meant the very, very first Evil Dead. Like, oh, okay. Hold on. I think the title is Within the Woods. Yes, that was like a proof of concept movie shot on 8 millimeter. But from what I heard, most of it is not. It's kind of lost, but still, it did brought enough interest to get an investor for his Evil Dead movie. So that's another like Super 8 millimeter movie trivia. So okay, look, I don't know too much about Australia other than, well, it. All I know is that it's one of the Commonwealth countries, and it started out as like I think like a penal colony for
Yeah,
United Kingdom, and there's a very complex history with that, and also very bloody history as well with their colonization.
with the
And
Aborigines, yeah.
yes, there's a really good movie about it. I think okay, I only seen like one movie that dealt with this topic, and I believe there are, local Australians and Aboriginal people have made movies about that deals with the colonization. But there's a movie called Nightingale by Jennifer Kent, and it is a very multi-layered and also very brutal movie set in Tanzania back when, well, I think back when during the like a penal era.
Wow.
So yeah, that was her follow up to The Babadook, which another Australian movie that I liked.
Yeah, that's like a modern day classic, Babadook. I didn't know that she. I honestly did not realize that she was Australian.
Uh, yeah, there are a lot of like celebrities you kind of follow. That, like, turns out, oh wait, they're Australians, or the directors that you've liked. Oh wow, this guy's from Australia.
I mean, my brain immediately leaps to George Miller, who did the Mad Max movies and Happy Feet.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
yes, and James Wan and his co-writer, his writer Lee Whannell are from Australia,
and
specifically from Melbourne.
and I think uh, I want to say it's Australia. I don't want to mix it up with New Zealand. Taika Waititi also.
Yeah, he's from New Zealand.
Okay. I was in the region. The only like no like, film like I can think of immediately off the top of my head is more of an animator, but Adam Elliott. Um,
Yes. Actually, I screened that movie before screening A Grand Mockery.
yeah, he. I
Yeah,
mean, he
Harvey Crumpet. That was really, really good.
Harvey Crump. I mean, he has a very cynical sense of humor, but like he carries it with such grace between um, Harvey Crumpet and even to his like more recent film, Memoir of a Snail. Um, but it's just such a unique tightrope to like kind of walk between. Um, but I feel like a lot of Australians kind of carry that. I mean, you see that even now with Michael Cusack, who did uh, Yellow Crystal
Yeah.
Fantasy. I visited Australia back like 2 years ago, um, both to Sydney and to Cairns, but I couldn't unfortunately go to the beaches because of it was blue bottle season, so riddled with just lots of poisonous jellyfish. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, I was curious to sort of see the sort of lay of the land, especially with some of the sights and sounds. But particularly, I feel like it's such a unique sort of perspective to look at, especially with like films like this, where it's not necessarily the most like mainstream film necessarily, but it's one that's a little more under the radar.
hmm Yeah, a literal underground movie from a city that's not exactly known for like producing movies, but the only very famous, Brisbane export is Bluey. That's what I learned while researching Bluey. Yeah, actually, yeah, I also screened Bluey for right before, Harvey Crumpet and A Grand Mockery as our, group, Discord group screening. Yeah, it was like one episode of Bluey, and I was like, I look, I look into like Brisbane. It's a very beautiful city, not gonna lie, but it also has I should have from what I read, it's also like known for its like political conservatism.
Hmm.
Like it's similar, like people have said that Queensland is like the American South, the southern states in the United States is it's like it's very socially conservative. Well, more like relatively like politically conservative area. And I wonder if that sort of relates to the like capitalist alienation as depicted in A Grand Mockery.
It, it could. I mean, there's a very sort of like very pessimistic view of like capitalism in this movie. Like I think back to both the scene that we talked about earlier with the singer at the lounge area, but also the recurring scene that happens with how he's treated by his boss at the movie theater, and then also the interactions he has with one of the employees. Not the employees. The guy wants to buy a drink at the bar, like, and he constantly tells him, "Hey, we're closed." Um, like it feels like very monotonous, but it feels like almost like very like looking down against it. It feels very much in that way. And I mean, you could argue that might just be the filmmaker's own sort of way of showing that. I mean, to be fair, I was listening to a lot of like Aussie like punk before this podcast just to get into the mindset a little bit. Um, which like I feel there is a lot of that counterculture in Australia. Um, so I'm not sure exactly squarely in Brisbane, but like I feel like there is that counterculture very much loud and proud there in Down Under.
Right. Yes. In fact, so I watched this documentary about like exploitation, which is a catch-all term for genre movies made in Australia and how they become popular alongside with the Australian New Wave. To make a long story short, the reason why Australian New Wave happened because after the Second World War, like the film industry in Australia is soon to be dead. Like it's soon to be gone extinct. So the government at that time decided to invest in, film industry. You know, open up for more, public funding for local filmmakers and establish film schools and that's why you have people like Peter Weir and Peter Weir is like one of those like Australian New Wave people. And not only that, they also gave them a lot of things to explore. So yes, there we go. The picnic at the Hanging Rock, and at the same time that they also gave them a room for making genre movies and the genre movies, be it an action movie, sex comedy, horror movie. They actually makes a lot of money, especially because the international audience love genre movies from Australia. Just how over the top it is. And I also learned that the guy who made Highlander, the guy who made Highlander turns out to be from Australia. And his debut movie, I think, I'm not sure if it's his debut movie, but okay, his second feature film, he made Razorback, and that got him very, very famous. And of course, you mentioned Mad Max. That's part of the new wave, and that also brought in a lot of, well, fortunately or unfortunately, that made Mel Gibson a huge star. So yes, there's an interesting overlap between the more highbrow or more like socially conscious side of the Australian film industry, along with the more playful, rebellious side of the genre filmmaking, and it's still going on. And Australia has now become sort of like a place to shoot a movie there, and perhaps like you sort of notice how almost like once in a year you see like Australian movies that are making wave in the United States. And like look, I mentioned the Lesbian Space Princess before, and I also mentioned Dangerous Animal by Sean Burns. Like a few weeks ago, I watched his The Loved Ones in Lucky 13 Saloon, and they did like a free screening there. I watched it because I watched The Loved Ones because I really liked his American movie Devil's Candy. Yeah, Devil's Candy really fucks. The Loved One, I liked it, but it was so extreme that I nearly fainted. I mean, you could take that as he could probably take that as a compliment. But yeah, there's a lot to be admired with that movie. I mean, if you take out a lot of extreme elements, there's a lot to be admired. But also, Lee Whannell himself, being the good thing about being an Australian, him being an Australian, that he could just make movies in Melbourne. Like, for example, Blumhouse Upgrade. that was shot in Melbourne, where it kind of more acted as like their like a more that the sort of like a cyberpunk California. Interesting enough. Yeah, that's something I wanted to share. So, oh, what do you think?
I mean, I feel there's such a wide spectrum with like Australian cinema, particularly, because I think a fair amount of people, I think, main exposure to it would normally be through films like Mad Max. Um, but there's so much of like um, a rich like thing there. Like you mentioned Peter Weir, like being one of the filmmakers that come out of that Australian new wave. I mean, my brain goes to for him not just Razorback but Gallipoli as well, which is like a bit of more like Australian kind of history of like Australian soldiers during World War One. There's this mixture of both, you know, telling these original stories, but at the same time, almost in a way of like kind of like trying to sort of uh, honor their kind of home a little bit, you know, and that's something I think that's interesting. Kind of like having this sort of like, making films that are distinctly, trying to, make a splash internationally, and there's a number of films that have done that. In every now and then again. I mean, the last film I saw, I mentioned it briefly, was Memoir of a Snail, which, uh, even funny enough, had like a mini interview when I saw it with. It was a recorded interview with actually George Miller and Adam Elliott. Um, but I personally think, there's this. I feel the bar is kind of like all over the place in terms of like whether it be super high octane out over the top to where it can be more subdued, or I mean, God forbid, I think the little film Australia with I think it's Nicole Kidman and Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, the
And
Baz Luhrmann movie.
yeah, also I'm pretty sure Australian as well. Uh, um, but still, I think this it's a very wide kind of spectrum in terms of what Australian filmmakers have to say regarding
Yeah.
what the main films that would sit at home across like the grander continent to where it's films that would basically fit alongside you know the Oscars or make a splash in Hollywood.
Yes, I forgot to mention about the documentary I watched about the exploitation. The documentary title is Not Quite Hollywood, and it's directed by Mark Hartley, I believe. And he also made a documentary about the Canon Group. And so yes, if you're uh not only a cinephile, but also if you want to know more about the movie history, then it's it's very much for you. It also goes into very in depth into how Australian film industry became very successful worldwide. And hold on, what should I put? I think, and people have made this observation that the reason why it got very popular worldwide because it, especially in the United States, because it also happened during the New Hollywood period. It happened during the New Hollywood period at the same time. So people starting to realize, oh wow, there's the country is doing a similar thing as what we Americans are doing. It's very rebellious, very, how should I put it? Do something very new thing with it and tell a lot more high concept stories. But but then, as I mentioned before, how exactly started is a bit different, for, or maybe sort of, kind of, from what I heard, that the new Hollywood era in the United States started because I think Richard Nixon gave a tax break on movie studios, all because he liked movies so much.
Huh.
And of course, during that era, that also gave us all the President's Men, which exposed the Nixon
Yeah, from that
administration
Watergate.
attempt to cover up the Watergate. Yes, yes, and you know the story. The New Hollywood ended with Heaven's Gate, and along with the rise of the blockbuster cinema with
Oh
Jaws and Star
yeah.
Wars. But the Australia is still keep on going, sort of. But people have kind of argued that the Australian New Wave sort of ended like during the late '80s because the National Film Board or something. The public, the the people the institution who are in charge of the film funding prefer to fund more like socially conscious movies, like a bit more highbrow drama instead of more like action packed genre movies. I mean that's what the document no not quite Hollywood has stated. But I mean you could probably disagree with Mark Hartley's historiography, but yeah.
I mean, I could see that. I mean, the thing is, it's. I think. I'm trying to think how to word this. I think it's appeases more people and more of the masses, to make more socially conscious, more sort of general kind of films compared to like the more niche or even like more like genre-based films. I mean, I figure it's a different kind of market too. Like when you look at like films like, as a whole, globally speaking, it's not a matter of just now this, the domestic market. You're now thinking about the international market, and then it's just this whole massive thing. But like, I know if like certain countries they do offer like, paying filmmakers, not just Australia, but my brain immediately thinks to, I really think to, funny enough, Canada, particularly the National Film Board there, particularly with how they fund animators and filmmakers, particularly those that are making films that both about the country, but also particularly films that could be inherently telling more unique stories. But I think probably it's just a different sense of politics and whatnot at play too. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents on that.
Right, and speaking of which, I also did some digging into like the animation scene in Australia, and I was actually genuinely surprised that it's about as big as the animation scene in the United States. But however, I would say that they have more like a better, how should I put it, better backing, or have a better backbone. Like they also get state funding, but I mean, which is very much unlike the United States. But you mentioned Adam Elliott. Like some of his movies, his shorts, his movies, they got made because they got state subsidies, and that's great. And not only that, I heard that there are a lot of like animation studio in Australia, and even Disney hired one of these studios to make like direct-to-video sequels. Are you aware about that?
No, I didn't know. That's a very unique chapter of like Disney's sort of history. So I wasn't. I remember it when they existed, but I didn't know like Australia got contracted or even like had one of their studios helping with that.
Yeah, one of the Disney studios, I think, located in Australia. Back when they started making like a direct-to-video sequel. Oh, and I also remember that the upcoming Avatar: The Last Airbender movie, it was animated in Australia. I mean, from what I heard. Oh, and also the Glitch production is also located in Australia, I think.
I wasn't aware, but I mean that makes sense. I mean now it's like getting even bigger and bigger now with like how many productions that Glitch has.
Yes, it is Australia. Australian. It's based in Sydney.
Okay.
And Bluey is a international phenomenon. Bluey the Bluey the dog, or
Yeah. Funny
Hold
enough,
on. What kind of
yeah.
dog Bluey is? Okay, the blue healer dog. Okay, yep. And it's also specifically from Brisbane, which is which is funny because even though I only like seen like few Bluey episodes, but the Queensland, both the Brisbane and Queensland in the Bluey universe is very bright and very optimistic. I don't know. It was probably told from the perspective of a child, so that's why it doesn't look that grimy and really it's depressing in A Grand Mockery.
Yeah, that's a very night and day comparison there. Uh, to go from Bluey to A Grand Mockery is pretty polarizing.
Hey everyone, Dom here. Here are 2 news items we would like to share. First and most importantly, our co-editor, Jessie is currently raising money for her short film titled Affluenza. Jessie described it as a satirical short film thematically similar to HBO's Succession, with an absurdist element. It's about the spoiled son of an upper-class family who commits a crime that could put his father's political ambition in jeopardy. So the family hire a doctor to diagnose him for an affidavit. It's inspired from the real-life case of Ethan Couch, who got away with vehicular manslaughter through non-existent diagnosis called Affluenza. If you like Succession, the TV show, and are interested in the real-life case of Ethan Couch, please help Jessie to get her project off the ground on Kickstarter. The link to the crowdfunding campaign is in the description, and it is currently live until April the 2nd. Second, we still have our Patreon page. Through supporting us on Patreon, you get early access to ad-free episodes, bonus episodes, bloopers, and research notes. You get to have your name on the credits and come hang out with us. We host monthly group screenings where we watch some movies and shorts. With your help, we could bring in big-name experts and industry professionals. The Patreon page link is in the description.
Oh wait. Oh shit. Sam is here.
Oh,
Hi Sam.
hey Sam.
Can you hear us?
I can hear both of you very well.
Wait, hold on. Adam will be joining in. Hi Adam.
Hey,
Hey Adam.
how you going?
Yes. We just finished talking about discussing A Grand Mockery and how this represent this and represent that, and we also got into a little bit of side tangent into Australian film industry.
Yep.
So
So
yes. First of all, we both of us loved your movie. It was such a hidden gem, and I really wish that
thanks. Nice to meet you, Ryan.
Yes.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Very nice to meet you all.
Also nice to meet you. Yeah, it was super sick. Like the moment that Jay showed me the trailer, like, and that you guys just shot an 8mm, like I was like, all right, I'm on board. Like I don't want to say it anymore. I'm on board. And like funny enough, visited Australia back in 2024, so I had like I was like, okay, let me see what the vibe is here. Is it more like Melbourne? Is it more like, Brisbane? I mostly visited Sydney and Cairns, but like, but like, it was such a like unhinged kind of trip, and I like movies like that. So like, seriously, you guys absolutely crushed it.
Yes. So welcome both of you, and
Thank you.
before we ask you before we throw you some couple of questions, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, I'm Sam.
Here with Sam Dixon, directors of A Grand Mockery, which you can find on Blu-ray or whatever on the internet.
So just one question I would like to, it's a bit personal. So how you and Sam got to know each other?
Yeah, we so have either of you ever been to Brisbane? You were saying before, Ryan, that you have been to Australia, but yeah, have either of you ever been to Brisbane before?
No. I mostly went to Sydney and Cairns, but I was supposed to go to Brisbane, but didn't happen.
Yeah. Nah, all good. I was just curious. Brisbane's a very different beast to Melbourne and Sydney. We're a far smaller town, and yeah, I think people that are just working in a particular creative pursuit for, any kind of longer period of time inevitably sort of become aware of each other. And in Brisbane, I mean, and yeah, Adam and I had worked with a lot of the same people for many years and sort of just slowly came into each other's trajectory. But yeah, it was only really when I moved back to Brisbane from Sydney that we yeah, sort of started spending a lot more time together and realized our creative tastes aligned. And yeah, and that was kind of how we met, and we wanted to collaborate on something at some point. And yeah, A Grand Mockery was just the first idea off the bat, I suppose.
Yeah, it's quite rare to probably find such a close collaboration because yeah, Brisbane
Mm.
is not a very cultural city, and most artists move away from the
Mm.
city.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, most people pursuing creative industries end up going to Melbourne, but a lot of them end up coming crawling back to Brisbane, myself included. But yeah, that's kind of the story of how we came into each other's trajectories.
So, so how did you get the idea for this movie?
Um, do you want me to go or do you want to go, Adam?
Um, well, Sam. I mean, you could speak about yeah, maybe moving back and the
Mm,
cemetery.
yeah, sure. Yeah, well, yeah, like I said, I had moved back to Brisbane from Sydney at the time, and I had just made a short film with Screen Queensland. That was kind of one of the reasons that I moved back, and it was a very long and exhausting experience, and it kind of left me feeling a little deflated after the experience of making that short. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do next. As exactly in the film, I was living directly next to the cemetery where the film is shot, so it would only take me, like less than 2 minutes to wander up the hill, and I'd be in the same cemetery you see in the film. I was sort of exploring some ideas. I don't know. I was going through a bit of a weird time. Adam had just finished his first feature film called Paris Funeral, which you can find out in the ether somewhere. And we were both sort of experiencing a little bit of creative malaise. And yeah, I remember just one morning we met up for a coffee, and I'd had kind of some ideas, but I wasn't really sure what to do with them or where I was going. Adam had had some ideas as well, and and like I said, I think we were both in a very similar place, so maybe our minds sort of interlocked a bit with interlocked with ease and fluidity, I suppose. And the more we spoke, the more we were like, oh, maybe this is one thing, and that was kind of the seed that started the sproutling that became A Grand Mockery. Other little things happened around that conversation, which were very fortuitous. Like as soon as we'd kind of finished talking about that, the guy that plays the performer at the end of the film drove directly past us and pulled over, and we ended up having this surreal exchange with him. It was like we'd just sort of known him our whole life, and some other just weird serendipitous things happened that kind of, I don't know, you just kind of get a feeling as a filmmaker when the idea feels like it's ripe for that time to jump into it. So yeah, I know that was a bit of an ambiguous ramble, but that is kind of how the film began. Yeah.
And probably continued in that way. Probably we're very connected to a small community of interesting creative people and characters here. So there was a lot of just guidance from the place that we live in, and that guided the film to a large degree.
Yeah, that's right. The film definitely felt like it was making itself at a particular point. Yeah.
Before that, Ryan and I made a comparison with the David Lynch movie, and I'm not sure if you have seen any of the David Lynch movies, and there's like, you mentioned about the lounge singer. We sort of made that comparison of that scene with the radiator lady, the in heaven scene from Lynch's first movie, Eraserhead.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I can see that. I mean, yeah, Adam and I are well versed in Lynch. We've both seen all of Lynch's films. I wouldn't say David Lynch was at the forefront of our minds or anything when we went into making this. I can see, the little moments of comparison. But Adam and I were really kind of, I don't know, more influenced by books, to be honest, at the time that we were sort of tiptoeing into making the film. We didn't really have any strong cinematic references that were guiding us. I mean, we both come from quite different backgrounds creatively and professionally. Like, I mean, just how each of us has worked. But we didn't set out with any sort of specific filmic references. I mean, I adore David Lynch, but I wouldn't say that he was, one of the number one inspirations or anything for this particular film. But I don't know, what do you have? What do you think on all that, Adam?
Yeah, I guess we both grew up watching his films and in absolute adoration of him. So I suppose there's always going to be some intrinsic influences with early ones in what you do. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we had a lot of maybe other things in our mind, but yeah, I can. A lot of people have probably mentioned David Lynch as some sort of echo there, I guess, in some of those scenes.
Specifically that bar scene as well. I think that probably is the most that the film stinks of Lynch at any point. Other people have sort of mentioned that on occasion. The bar scene.
I guess it has, the film has many different modes, I suppose. Like the first half is almost completely unrecognizable from the middle or the second. So it has a lot of different gears and shifts there, which I think has made it a little difficult to categorize. Of course, now it's kind of been categorized as a genre film or body horror, but these are kind of just localizing the description on one part of the film, because altogether it's slightly more diverse, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we really wanted and this was intentional going into it, the first half of the film to feel more like a documentary than anything. And the second half kind of, becomes more like this is the movie now, Yeah.
So yes, Ryan and I also talked about the American film director who kind of used a very documentary-like approach to telling stories. It's like, and we talked about Richard Linklater, before.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I remember reading a interview where you mentioned Franz Kafka as one of the literary influence for this movie.
For sure. Yeah. He was well, yeah. I think in the months leading up to us sort of, well, I think even having that conversation that spawned the film, I had just finished reading his complete work, so he was very much swirling around in my brain. Adam and I had both been going through a fair bit of Gothic literature at the same time, like Frankenstein, Dracula, Adam introduced me to Saybold, and so yeah, we had a lot of literary references swirling around, but Kafka for sure was a big one. Yeah.
And David Lynch himself was he was a Kafka fan, so you could see where the connection has developed. You can see where's that this Lynchian DNA come from.
Yeah.
Just another. I'm gonna ask you some couple of technical questions. So, what was your decision to use Super 8mm?
We made that decision super early in the piece. It was both it was a format that Adam and I had always adored visually, and something that we wanted to work on. Adam and I have both shot primarily on film, specifically 16mm, so we're both well versed in working with film. Neither of us had shot on Super 8 before, but yeah, we had seen other, I don't know, we had looked at other things that had been shot on Super 8, and we very much wanted to represent the Brisbane that we know and have grown up in, which is a strange and somewhat hallucinatory dream-like city in our in our opinions in a lot of ways. And I haven't really seen a film, and also there's straight up not that many feature films that have been shot in Brisbane. Like, I'm struggling. I can think of all my friends are leaving Brisbane, and that's about it right now. There, of course, have been some others, but we're still, regardless, we'd never seen Brisbane represented the way that we know it. And Super 8 felt like the right medium to capture that slightly corrupted, slightly dreamlike quality that the city has, which is like beautiful and corrupted at the same time. And yeah, we never really questioned doing it on another format. We sort of set off with that idea from the start. We did some super early tests. We're happy with them. And yeah, so we just plowed on ahead with the Super 8. And there were a lot of challenges that came with shooting on Super 8. One of them being that we thought it was going to be a lot cheaper than 16mm, but it didn't. I don't think it ended up being any cheaper at all. And then there was problems like, all of the Super 8 cameras made a phenomenal amount of noise whilst shooting, so we had a lot of trouble with the sound. But yeah, I can't imagine the film existing on any other format. Like, it was always destined for Super 8. It wouldn't be what it is even if we shot it on another scale of film. That was yeah, that was kind of the idea from the get-go, really.
So yeah, Ryan and I talked about this very obscure, animated movie called Bluey. You may not heard about. That they're like, oh shit! I didn't know that Bluey it's a Brisbane export.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy. Hey, Bluey's probably Bluey and probably Jacob Elordi are the two Brisbane biggest Brisbane exports right now. Yeah,
and so is your movie. So Ryan, do you have any question for them?
Yeah, I did. So like with the film, watching this film, one of the things that I immediately was taken away by was sort of the shot composition, especially the outdoor shots, because the natural light that you capture with Super 8, like, there's such a very unique texture to it. And so with some of the shots, my question first off is, how long did the shoot take for this film?
About a year and a half. So it was a sort of long form shoot. Yeah.
And then secondly, my next question for Sam is, I guess collectively both, but like I guess with making this film, what prompted, I guess, for you, Sam, playing Josie? Like, what was the decision making? How did you come to that kind of conclusion of having you, Sam, playing the main character in all this?
Yeah. Well, I'm not a stranger to acting. I do primarily write and direct. But I have acted in small, tiny little bit parts in my own films as well as films of my friends. Like acting is something that I love doing. Like I would never, pursue it as a sole creative pursuit, but it's something that I love doing. I also adore being on a set when I'm just an actor and don't have to worry about all of the things that the director has to worry about. But going into Mockery, I suppose, because the content of the film was inspired a lot by stuff that Adam and I were going through at the time, and then specifically, like I said, I was working at the cinema that Josie's working at, and I was living directly next to the cemetery that Josie's always in, and so I think the character sort of being like loosely inspired by myself, a sort of more extreme, exaggerated version of what I was going through at the time. It seems like the logical choice. I can't remember the exact conversation that led to that being cemented, but I think we were like, I couldn't think of anybody else that would play Josie, and so I was up for the challenge. And
Or
then,
someone willing
just
to exploit themselves to the degree that you would be for free.
to the degree that I would be happy with it. Exactly. No one else would have gone through what I went through with
I don't think,
Josie.
I don't, I
But
don't think
we,
anyone could have done it. The thought of it is sickening to me. Of anyone else trying to portray your very intimate life.
I agree.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I hate biopics.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So in the same way that the Super 8 was something that was locked in from really early in the making of it, me playing Josie was as well. And I'd acted enough that I'm confident in my own abilities. I'd never been the lead of a feature before, but yeah, I think Adam and I were both just went into the whole thing with a lot of confidence and but also just an attitude of sort of delightful experimentation. We had a lot of ideas and things that we were going to try. I didn't know how I was going to go in the long run, but yeah, we just sort of tackled the whole thing with a playfulness that I think you can see in the final result of the film that it has a very pure energy to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was such a visceral watch. Like I think to both the first half where it's this sort of mundanity to Josie's sort of life working at the cinema, to just the sheer like devolving of your character. There's a scene in particular that I want to sort of, I guess I want to know, I guess, the process of it, particularly when Josie is being painted on by the artist, and you ask, make me art, like make me a piece of art, basically.
Am I a work of art?
Yeah, my work of art. Like, what was the process of doing that? Like, what was I guess, the sort of thought process with that scene, particularly? With that, like, what was sort of the inspiration behind it? Because I mean, Josie's the character that is, going through life, and then he's sort of taken by these different people to where eventually he's sort of led astray and led sort of just to this downward spiral, basically, where I guess what was going through that particularly, because it's just, you mentioned there's this sort of pure experimentation throughout, and that was one of the things that caught me most off guard. It's this first inkling of it before shit truly hits the fan, particularly.
Yeah. Well, I'm in that room right now. I'm sort of hovering above that spot, and the artist that paints Josie's next door, smoking or doing something. Yeah. Well, he is an artist, James Louis O'Leary, mostly surrealist, religious painter, and I think that scene and challenge to him was bemusing because as he says in the scene, he'd never done an abstract painting before. Yeah. We met. Jim was probably one of the few people involved in the film that we didn't know too well. I met him through his neighbor, and we needed someone to play Josie's neighbor in the film, so he became involved. And yeah, I remember that particular evening being extremely magical in terms of a scene that we were doing that was less planned than others. Really just attempting to capture some scenes of two friends hanging out, and one of them being kind of teetering in an unhinged way when one friend is not entirely sure what's going on with them, but is kind of laughing, but also probably thinking, they're kind of scaring me at the moment. So I guess that was the intention, which just unfolded really amazingly between the two of them. We were just kind of observing and filming a lot of that, I think.
To expand upon that a little bit, and at the risk of sounding like a wanker, I know, but I know that Adam would agree with me. I don't like to reveal too many things about some of the mysteries that are intentionally in the film. But for me, that scene is kind of happening, like Adam said, when Josie's on the brink of wherever this kind of abstract sort of psychosis is leaving him, and as someone that is, like you get the impression that Josie, is an actual artist in himself, an unsuccessful one, whilst because obviously working at a cinema and living in this dingy little place where he just draws and drinks wine. But I mean, he has a desire to create, and I don't know, for me that scene is sort of occurs around the tipping point of his psyche as well, where it's sort of blurring, like because you can look at this sort of second half of the film, like is Josie the one that like does become the art that is being critiqued by everyone else? I'm not saying that is the case with the film, but yeah, for me the scene, like, sort of bridges the two worlds that we're inhabiting, and does that make sense?
No, it makes complete sense to me. I mean, me and Jay were both kind of talking a bit about the sort of ambiguity with the film, especially around also this entity, Sal, that like we don't necessarily have a clear-cut idea of really if he's a demon or what sort of force he plays in all of this. We were talking about that. So like, I mean, even with just the sort of things that you and Adam both mentioned, I think it explained a lot. It was a good insight into it all, to be honest.
I would also...
Insight is good. I don't want to explain things.
No. Look, before we full disclosure, before me and Jay started this podcast today, like I was like trying not to spoil too much, because like I only saw it because of Jay's recommendation, and like this film itself was one of those ones I'm like, I would rather people see this as blind as possible and just be like flashbang with all the viscera there that the film has to offer. And we kind of talked the nitty-gritty of it to some extent in this episode, but still, I think even hearing from both you, Sam, and you, Adam, I think, even just having just sort of the general like outline, I guess would be the way I would describe it. Where it's not delving too much into it, but also giving enough, to sort of give enough needed, basically, is what I would say. It is well worthwhile, honestly.
Yes.
And you'll probably say this, but if any of your listeners want to see the film, Yellowville Pictures are the distributor. There is a Blu-ray through Vinegar Syndrome, and it will be on Shudder later in North America and Canada. And maybe other screenings now and then around places. But love you to see the film if you have
screenings. Yeah, exactly.
So one more question for Adam. Could you tell us about your upcoming movie, Philadelphia?
Yeah,
Either
sure.
briefly or
Yeah. And then I'm gonna need to go because it's
yes.
11:30 a.m. and I need to drink immediately. And I'm also sweating, melting at the moment in this room. But yes,
Brisbane is hot.
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Closed all the doors. Jim's probably melting in an inferno next door. Yeah, Philadelphia is an upcoming feature film. I hope it will possibly premiere at a festival this year. Yeah, it's a lurid, colorful, kind of a erotic romance, and yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful film about Philadelphia, who is a British scriptwriter. It's my recent description for the film is sort of a cracked merchant ivory film. I think is a good description of the film.
Now you have my intrigue.
So hopefully, this year or next year. But yeah, we shot it 2.5 years ago. Sam also acts in it and helped write some of it as well. So yeah, it has a few of the same folks in this film. Yeah.
You've never
shot
seen
on
the Gold
film
Coast
or
represented like it.
yeah, is it shot on
Yeah,
film
that-
or is shot on digital?
Yep, that one's Super 16. Yep.
Okay. So all right. So Sam, Adam, thank you for joining us and gave your perspective about the behind the scene.
No
We love your
worries.
movie.
No worries.
Thank you so much.
No, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for the encouragement and yeah, good talking to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you both for all your kind words. Thank you for watching the film and lovely to have a chat.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Love you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. So, okay. So even though we're technically like 10 minutes late, but could we extend to like 30 more minutes to talk about, or 20 or 30 minutes to talk about how we could probably like reimagine into like an animation?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So I thought about some of the a lot more avant-garde surrealist animation while watching this.
Yeah, I thought like I have a sort of like idea in mind, and partly inspired by two particular like pieces of information that caught my attention this past week. Funny enough, but I'll go into a little more detail. I'd rather hear what your input is first, because it will be a bit before I can ramble.
Okay, sure. I mean, I want to hear your pitch.
Okay, so recently, I because I'm part of Asifa East, and we just had our festival, and there was a news short, particularly from actually someone who actually won the host of a local event that we have here in New York, Animation Speakeasy, by animator Andy London, who did a full.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking to. Yeah,
he did.
Okay.
He did a short that's coming on the festival circuit recently this year called 1981, and it's done this very like almost heavy metal inspired rotoscoping. I wouldn't even call it heavy metal. The way I would describe it for anyone listening in is if you ever seen the section from Yellow Submarine, particularly the Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds section, where it's like of the dancer that's rotoscope, but not even like a clean rotoscope. Like it's like almost like splashes of paint, over outlines basically. Like that kind of like roughed in rotoscoping is how I would like want to see like this film being done. Like even if for like the mundane scenes, even if you're just doing like that kind of style, like I'm not talking like Waking Life like with Richard Linklater, but even more like more viscera to it. Basically, is what I would want it to even like look like. Like I initially when I saw the set of like shorts prior to prior to the screening. I couldn't attend it necessarily due to scheduling issues, but particularly I thought of it in even style like Yellow, but like I would want it to be something that doesn't necessarily, make into caricatures Josie or any of his like flatmates, but rather something that's like almost an abstraction of it in a way, an abstraction, but still carrying the kind of like the kind of internal grit and core that this film has. I would recommend everyone either seeing that section from The All-Submarine or Andy London's short 1981 as a frame of reference, because I think even talking about it doesn't necessarily do it justice, but like I think even if you do it just in a very like grungy, low budget kind of style, it would still carry that same kind of core. I think with any remake you attempt to do, especially if you're going to take a film and reanimate it, I think one of the core things that you want to do is carry that kind of, internal core, that kind of, inner meaning of the film. You don't want to, discern away from it. Like, even if you were to keep like the same shot compositions and everything, like if you don't necessarily try to honor it even in the medium that you're doing it in, then it's like, like look at like a good example would be like Gus Van Sant's remake of Psycho. Even if a film like that is a shot to shot, 1-to-1 remake, it's still a piece of garbage by comparison. I mean, it's still artistically, it looks great. It's just an inferior like thing of the original. But yeah.
Gus Van Sant Psycho was a very interesting topic, to say the least. I mean, it's something it's interesting to talk about, but then as a movie, it was like, what's the point of this? But I digress. But I was thinking of more of like I just realized we talked about David Lynch a lot, and he experimented with actually even before he made Eraser, he experimented with animation, be it like a 6 people getting sick, or and perhaps he even did some experimentation in digital animation, like that one, I think like a Mad World or Dumbland. Yeah, I think Dumbland.
Yeah.
Yes?
I was just looking at that wooden shed over there.
Oh, yes?
I like that shed.
That's my shed.
I know it's your fucking shed! I like that wooden shed.
I have a false arm.
What's that you say?
I just realized that Dumbland, it's kind of a very close thing. Just how everything looks so grungy.
Yeah, like it's still like
it's like a very stripped down Michael Cusack animation. I mean, you mentioned Michael Cusack, the guy behind The Smiling Friend. I watched like the one episode of his, YOLO.
Mm-hmm.
I was like planning to screen that as part of the group screening, but then I don't know. I feel like Adam Elliott one is a bit more. I don't know, how should I put it? It's a lot more thoughtful.
It's a very like cut and brush, like abstract like thing. YOLO, like it's
his spin on Rick and Morty.
Morty! Oh, Rick! Get in the car, Morty! Get in the car!
Oh, Rick, I was asleep. I was having a little Morty sleep.
Morty, get in the damn car now! Get in here!
Oh, why?
Get in the fucking car, Morty! He's not coming with you! Leave him alone!
I'm calling the police. I'm calling the police.
He's sick of it! He's sick of the adventures! Get in the fucking car, Morty! You leave my brother alone!
Get out of here.
You leave him alone! Get in the car!
Yeah, like even if you like look at like, even like I would say like the bushland adventures that he did, like if it would it's like when I first watched it, I was like I thought it was like the most like pure hearted like piece of Australian like animation I've seen in a long time. Like it was so in your face about it, but like I think like even if you were to do like something more like subdued, I think it might be a little better.
Right. And or I mean, okay, you're familiar with the Instagram account 24 memes per second. I discovered a lot of like completely out of the radar animation short, like experimental animation short from like 24 meme per second. Did you add that moment as well?
Yeah, it's a weird thing of like I've seen a fair amount of like out there shorts from 24 memes per second. Like usually for like very out there animation, it's like the one of the few pages I go to for like recommendations. Because like unless you're going on the festival circuit, like there's only a handful of avenues that you could go to, like Katska or whatever. But like a lot of those like main pre-show like offer more to like more mainstream animation or more like eclectic animation. But I mean, thank God for 12 memes per second because like I feel like there's more shorts I've seen from there that than I have for like the few times I've gone to the festival. I feel like I've gotten more from that page. I might as well just plug that in the podcast now. You should check out 12 memes per second if you need more short recommendations.
Right. I think the one of the person behind that account appeared on the Lodge Morgan's podcast, Boiling Point or Boiling Over.
Boiling Over, I think.
Yeah, Boiling Over, and okay. I can't remember too much from that episode, but it was very insightful about the whole indie animation scene. But yeah, I'm looking at one of the account's post right now, and I remember because of the account recommend Mirror People, I was like, you know what, this is a very much the vibe that Grand Mockery pretty much successfully replicate, but in live action. But now you mentioned that you don't want it to be like a shot for shot, and that's completely understandable. But I don't know, instead of just retelling a story, but I think we could just try to capture that documentary feel by just recording ourselves with a very scrappy recording device.
For sure.
And then after that, we could just animate that either with, I don't know, like the MS Paint or any like a very lo-fi, painting software you could probably ever imagine.
I mean,
what?
You could do that in that kind of way. I didn't think of it till you mentioned that, but even if you just record it, like even if you just like happen to have on a hand an 8mm like Super 8 camera, you could arguably just like incorporate some film. Like even if you just do like one piece of like hypothetically speaking, like a piece of like, even if you had like a roll of like expired 8mm film stock, you could just use that and then like just take the film and just like then just scratch on it, like use the film and just literally like just use it in that kind of way.
Yes, the Norm McLaren approach.
Yeah, I mean I could talk all day about Norm McLaren, but yes.
Yes.
I think,
and not just MS Paint, but also Deluxe Paint, which is like a. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Deluxe Paint, but it's a soft, you know, graphic editor software on Amiga computer. It was a Photoshop before Photoshop.
Mm.
Yeah, and oh yes, the Flipbook app on Nintendo DS.
I still have my DSi with flip notes on it.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably make a feature film about a guy losing sanity as it goes on.
I mean,
I don't know, and I'm pretty sure it also has a camera feature, that DSi.
It does have a camera feature.
You could create a cutout animation with it.
It has both a video. It has a camera. I think it mostly does still photographs, but like it has a camera. It also has audio recording as well. I say this because I'm pretty sure I still have on it a bunch of really outdated memes and sound bites from like 15 years ago.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm not gonna ask any question like what did you even make with with the
I'm just gonna say I'll say one example. It's a really old, outdated Family Guy soundbite.
Oh, okay.
So you can just imagine that is a good frame of my sense of humor.
Yeah, I mean, we all been there. Our sense of humor kind of come from like popular comedy shows like South Park or even like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I mean, I saw someone reenacting like one popular episode. I mean like one guy. I mean like a high school skit. Like they could, instead of just coming up with a new thing, they just reenact a skit from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But people start somewhere. But yes, I think I wanted to do a video essay about digital animation and how people use that to explore human psychology, because compared to like say cell animation or anything that like drawn like literally with hands, digital I mean compared to that, I think the biggest advantage of digital animation is that because of it has interpolation and tweening, and it looks very uncanny, and it also, how should I put it? It really captured this very, how should I put it? I don't know. There's so many like past digital animation work that has explored like human psyche.
There's one that I could immediately think
like
of
such
now.
as this short film Hunger, which is a Canadian short film Hunger, and then
oh yes,
and then last year I mentioned Charles Burns segment in the Fear of the Dark. That's the only like 3D segment of the animation anthology.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know. It was the way the character movies feel rather disturbing, and it very fits well with the overall story. I mean, today people try to do like the Spider-Verse style where it's all very choppy and jittery, which is completely fine. That that approach of animation is fine. But I feel like the tweening and interpolation is very underrated in my opinion. So
I mean,
so
Hunter's pretty like good example of like how you can do it with such even limited stuff there, because it is just like it's a very like simple and like by design, but it's very uncanny in terms of like the final product, especially with like the character morphing and changing.
And in case if I'm not allowed to use digital software, I could do the analog. And in fact, and let's be fair, a lot of like the experimental animation were also analog, obviously. So I could probably just use I could just print out photos and cut them off, turning into like a cutout animation, like that Oscar-winning short film Tango. No, it's a
Yeah.
Polish animation short, Tango. It's like a. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
It's not the photocopy tango, is it?
No, not the photocopy Tango. Just the title is just Tango.
I'm not sure if I've
Yeah.
seen. I mean,
Yeah, the director of the movie, the director of short is a very interesting figure of itself. But yeah, but we don't have much time to go into the detail. But I learned when I learning about this in a short film, I also learned that wow, he was involved in that movie. That the one movie that Gaspar Noé liked. But that's another topic for later. But so yes, I could, to keep it very lo-fi as possible, I could probably use like a Crayola. Hold on, like a Crayola, like crayons and markers. You get the idea.
yeah. No,
I just animated on paper. That's the classic approach. I think you could do that, and then photograph it on like an expired 8mm film.
Well, I was gonna say you could just like do like print like copies of the shots themselves as like coloring sheets, and then just color it with like marker and crayons. Like there was a music video done about a couple years ago by I think it's by Meg Myers, if I remember correctly. She did a cover of Kate Bush's "Running Up That Hill," and it was basically all shot live action, and then printed out on coloring sheets to I think given to grade schoolers, and then the grade schoolers colored it, and they used I think it was like 3,000 something sheets altogether to create the music video, where it just is animation technically, but it's just done in this very unique style as like cutouts, basically. Well, kind of, yeah. But like even if you do it in like that kind of way, like it still is another crack at it, but albeit way more, I guess, way more time consuming technically. But
Well, I mean, I don't know. I was try to wrap this up as much as I can. So instead of telling, Sam and Adam's story, but we could just, come up with our own story, more mundane real life story, but set in New York City, trying to deal with capital, alienation. Shoot video footage of ourselves, like a blogging, make a series of blogs, I mean like vlog, and stitch it all together and use that, and then on that's the first half, and then the second half will be a complete surreal journey. And in animation, so it's mostly like a rotoscope animation, but however, I would say like a quarter in, you notice a lot of like surreal elements, a lot of deranged elements, like the anatomy doesn't match, and a lot of things are squashing together. And then, after the first half, things go completely wild. Like you see a lot of just like wild, like like I mentioned, the photograph, the cutout photographs just popping up out of nowhere. Oh, there's a Norm McLaren, scratchy shape just pops out, and everyone just starts become a lot more gibberish, and they all act like a David Lynch movie characters. And should we also add into that the lounge singing thing, or have our own equivalent to lounge?
I mean,
like our own like in heaven thing.
I mean, even if to replicate that, I mean, it's feasible to do it. It's just I think I'm trying to think like because like it's a very unique scene, particularly, and even if you're even in the vein of um, the In Heaven, Lady in the Radiator scene, the New York equivalent, um, it's it's doable. I think if you like do like just um like I was thinking again the van like almost like uh animated almost like uh like a very limited like I wouldn't say rotoscope or even like a live animation like over like footage of like someone doing like a lounge singing, but like I feel it's such like a very like specific scene. I feel like it's like not mandatory. Even if we were to tell our own like New York version of the story, I think that scene, mm, it's I want to say it's mandatory, but it feels necessary. I feel it's the kind of the last bit of even if it's uncomfortable, like last bit of like brevity before like real it just before the last like collapse before like you have it where it's like Josie's final like transformation before the final journey he has into the woods. Like even if you like, I'm trying to like think like what would be like the New York example would be like I don't know going to like the woodlands of like Long Island or the woodlands of upstate, uh, or even like the tunnels of the subway and the sewers with the rats and
I'm. It's either an upstate New York or the tunnels of the New York Metro subway. But I, I just realized Neon Genesis Evangelion, and I mean the end of Evangelion did something like that. I just realized that's very much the animation equivalent to the Grand Mockery, except with the robot or mecha.
I my brain immediately went to a very it went to another movie that had a very like almost similarly like Lynchian vibe. It came out in like 2019 with called The Mountain with Jeff Goldblum.
Yes, the Rick Albertson. I need to watch that.
There's a scene that reminded me of vaguely that almost felt like it's like a almost like a zoetrope, where it's like in like a gymnasium or something like that, and like there's something about that. To be fair, I haven't seen. I'm just going off the trail because it had a very. There's a shot that has that feel to it that I was thinking about it actually while watching the movie, but but even if you were to do something like almost like it would be very costly, but like almost like an uncanny like zoetrope. Like I guess the monitors I could give to like people who are listening in is like um Mob Psycho 100's intro. I think from season 2 or 3, which has a zoetrope in it. But if you do like a full like uncanny valley version of it, for a scene like that, it would be, I think, just as effective. Just like flashbang the audience with something like that. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
Yeah. So, be it digital or analog, it starts out very mundane, but then a lot of mixed media surrealist shit happens, and then our main character, our New Yorker main character, just suddenly disappears, either in upstate New York or New York subway metro. There we go. That's our animation equivalent to A Grand Mockery. So that concludes this month's episode. Ryan, how are you feeling?
Good. Good.
Yeah. It was a very interesting episode considering I near okay. just a quick thing to share. I nearly invited like an indie filmmakers last year, but however, we got disconnected because some hacker, I don't know, some AI hacked into his account and ended up changing a lot of things, and
Oh
we
no.
just lost communication. And we ended up filling in for different guests. We ended up. I'm not sure if that's the right word. Like we just pushed forward. Like he was intended for like a September 2025 slot, but then he got pushed forward to like August 2025 because it was fairly empty. So yeah, and that guest, Ali, he's from Iran. I hope he's safe. I'm kind of worried, and I hope he's having a great time during the Nowruz period.
Yeah, this whole war has just been insane. It's still hard to wrap my head around it, honestly.
Yeah, same here. Like, so yes, yeah. I was very honored to have both Sam and Adam to come onto our show. Maybe I'll try. I should bring more indie film directors come onto the show and talk about their movie.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, they seem super chill. Like I dig both their vibes, honestly. Even with the short like conversation that we had with them.
So, Ryan, thank you very much for joining with me for tonight.
Happy to.
So, thank you all for listening, and have a good spring, and good night.
Night.
You just listened to the Reanimate This podcast. A Grand Mockery is currently distributed by Yellow Veil Pictures. It is now available on video on demand and Blu-ray. You could purchase the physical copy on Vinegar Syndrome. Please follow director Adam C. Briggs on Instagram. His handle is @AdamCBriggs. The opening theme music is Wanderlust, Celeste Mix by Celeste. And the ending theme music is Arizona Green Tea by Stuffy Dollar. Please support their works on Bandcamp. The links are in the description.
Man, the cannon said, of course, a Tampa.